Welcome to episode 127 of the Corey Shepherd podcast. I never get so much a burnout for one episode in my life. So this episode we had to make some things clear. They tell me I'm a defender of the 1%. However, I'm too far from the ground out of touch. I want to be far from the ground, you know. They don't know me. They say, well, hey, this kind of 1% talk, you don't know what really happening behind the scenes and things. So let me jump right back into the 1%ers now. I could play a song from one of the top 1% of recording artists ever in the world, alongside one of the top 1%ers of soca music in the history of soca music.
Hey, hey. Where Bobby?
Yes.
And every day, and every day, and every day, and every day, and every day. Oh Lord, they run me down. Yeah, they hunt me down, down. They track me down, 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 down. And they shake me down, 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 down. I am a fugitive, always on the run. I started in Latin, heading to the Caribbean night and day. Little did they know, sunshine in Trinbago. I started to flow through the Pacific back to Africa. Masikela, me be down in Siparia, Siparia. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Montano, me be down in Soweto.
Soweto, oh yo 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 yo. Masikela. Back in Africa, Africa.
Montano, make me back in Trinbago.
Trinbago. Oh yo, oh yo. Kaya, Tatene. Where Bobby? Where Bobby? Kaya, Tatene. Where Bobby? Hunt me down, down there. They hunt me down, down there. They track me down, down there. And they shake me down, 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 down. Masikela, me be down in Siparia, Siparia. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Montano, me be down in Soweto.
Soweto. Yeah. Masikela, me be back in Africa, Africa.
Montano, me be back in Trinbago.
Talking about the 1%, of course, the great Marshall Montano and the late great Hugh Masekela. It's a 1% kind of episode, you know, plenty things to get to before I come back and debate that 1% thing to earlier, but I want to state up front that I am not a defender of no 1%. I want to also reiterate that the 1% we're referring to just refers to the top 1% of earners in the country or in the world, right? And we're going to expand that today to 20%, you know, because like I said, my boy, during the course of this week, 1% of the places, 15,000 people and thing you're talking about, you know. So if you can find yourself in that 1%, it's a space for plenty people. Don't make them feel like and tell you like it's one little family could control 1% of business, or one little artist and one little radio station owner could control nothing. 1% is plenty. It's a room. But hey, I just want to say some more Marshall Montano real quick, right? Because of course Hugh Masekela would have passed away, so Marshall Montano has been sitting down on this song for a while, waiting to release this song. And I was hearing the voice that Montano in the promotion for the one show or the one performance on Carnival Friday. Carnival Friday is my birthday too. I just want to put that out there one time. I was hearing them talking about that, or hearing the voice. And when you hear that voice and that tone and texture of voice, I always think Wendell Marmoran and Tree Canal. So I thought that's who was saying Montano. So to find out that's Hugh Masekela, I don't know if I'm the only person who didn't know that, but to find out it's Hugh Masekela make me love it even more. And I'm not going, that's for sure. Let me just put that out there one time. Them big fete is not for me. I come here and I bad talk people who is called little fete, big fete, right? And one of them little fete this weekend was Soaka. Salute to Wow Events and Soaka, and salute to my whole Soaka squad, right? Damien and Crystal Rowe, Joel and Millie's Popplewell. And I'm so glad Kishana and Damien, I'm so glad they couldn't be there because Kishana is the paint queen. So I can get to keep in a contact lens for a little longer in this year's Soaka. But any famous words of Marshall Montano, given my spin on things, right? I clearly too old for Soaka. Oh, yo, I ain't making joke. That I cannot make again. I tell you all, I am pre-retirement leave from fetting. This was supposed to be my first indication as to whether I could play mass with humor on the road, and right now it's looking very, very iffy. I couldn't make. Number one, I was supposed to go Iron Park. Iron Park's supposed to be a pan shootout on the Friday, which I like as a concept because I love Song Clash, first things first. And then the vibe that Panorama used to have back before it had greens and all that sort of thing, and the pan in the North Stand, coincidentally, where steel missing from the North Stand. I know how we going to make out of this year, but I feel like Iron Park have an opportunity to bring back that, and the band's playing alongside DJs. So you have the DJ like a selector in front of the band, and the band playing different genres of music and kind of clashing with one another. If I'm not mistaken, the bands in this year, Iron Park, I know Exodus was there for sure. Despers, Renegades. It would be nice if I do the research and I listen from them before I do this, right? But those were some of the bands that were supposed to be there. So I say I'm going down in that clash thing. Well, I want to tell you that Sleep won that fight. When I come home Friday evening, I was like, I remember my barber, salute my boy Ronald. I say, Ronald, listen, I come in and trim and thing, and the intention is to go in this Iron Park. Ronald and also he go in Iron Park too. And I went home. I cock up my old foot, as they would say. And the next thing I know, it was morning, Iron Park, nothing. But I like the concept of the Iron Park. And as we unpan too, I just want to congratulate everybody who participated in the schools or the junior panorama. The junior panorama is one of them things that shows us what it is we really have when we talk about carnival. So I talk all the time about the fact that we don't have enough. I don't want to dive into the 1% too earlier because people don't tell me they ain't tuning back in and think they're vexed with me with the 1% thing. But our business acumen behind carnival is poor. We have a festival every year that's predictable because it's the same dates we do it every year, the 2 days before Ash Wednesday. And how much ever weeks it have before that, so it falls between Boxing Day and Ash Wednesday, regardless of how much weeks in between there, we work out how much fetes we have and all the events, and a lot of recurring events. Soaka is one of the weekends it seems as though people is flying for that. St. Mary's, which coming up this weekend, is another event, people flying in so just to fete there and go back to work and may not come for the rest of Carnival. But still, we don't have enough flights on. I see Caribbean put on some more flights and still thousands of US dollars for the additional flights they put on. Like if somebody in Caribbean now find out that Carnival, they say, hey, there's a carnival in Trinidad. We should put on more flights. Now that all the flights have been booked out for so long, we should put, the executive rooms and thing. You wonder what they was thinking. Like, how come we didn't plan for this in advance? We don't think that the carnival still have the appeal to bring in the same amount of people or even more people since we didn't have a carnival for so long and there's the mother of all carnivals. I don't know. I'd be surprised that we surprised at this. We don't have enough hotel rooms. We don't have enough quality hotel rooms or quality Airbnbs here. We don't have much to do outside of the carnival itself or carnival-related activities. We don't have enough rental cars. So we don't have enough costumes. We don't have enough fete tickets. We don't have enough venues. So I don't know if we're taking the whole idea of a carnival seriously. But when you look at the junior panorama and the enthusiasm these youths had for junior pan, you're seeing what is one of the selling points, or what we used to call in marketing a unique selling proposition or competitive advantage that we could have over any one of the other islands who have a carnival or any other continents who have a carnival. We must know that it is a Trinidad carnival. I've been saying this here for a long time. The template could work. We have a Trinidad carnival. This is what you see February here. That dictates what happens for all the rest of carnivals in the world, right? It's the same promoters we have, the same artists, the same mass bands, along with the other local people who do their own local thing. But we have a roving festival that I don't know if anybody in the world could mirror this. It is extremely unique, and I wonder if we underestimate what we have, and that is why the business aspect of it must not be divorced from the culture. We have to do business still. If we're not doing business, the thing will die off, right? When I watch them youths playing pan and the enthusiasm they have for it and the choreography they do behind it and they sing before they play and they sing during while they playing and they chant. Even when I saw the announcements of people who won, the euphoria these schools had that they won the competition was something else to behold. And that is going to be very, very hard for any other territory who have a carnival to mimic. And this is one of the key things in business about competitive advantage. You want to build your competitive advantage around the things that cannot easily be copied. Because we live in a world now where no matter what business you're doing, most of what any business doing could be copied. Anybody could make KFC chicken. They sell you online how to make it. Anybody could make doubles during the pandemic. Well, most people could make doubles, right? And we see it during the pandemic. So the things that you're doing, you had to decide, okay, these are the things that attract my customers, but 95% of them are easily copyable. That's a word? But that 5% that not copyable is what you have to now try to protect and make sure. Not that you shouldn't protect everything else. Protect your intellectual property and protect, your trademarking and all that. But you want to make sure that you have things that people want to come to you for because you are unique for that experience. And you see the pan, the stick fighting, the Cambule riots, the plays, and so on around the carnival season, where the fete seem to be the biggest thing because that's what advertising the most and attracting the tens of thousands of people. But we can't forget that we have an immersive carnival experience that it's going to be difficult for Jamaica to copy. Just like how it's hard for us to copy the amount of all-inclusive hotels they have, at least in the short run. We can't copy that just like that. But they're going to have a difficult time replicating our entire carnival experience. And we just have to be careful. And when I say we here, I'm talking about the business, the government, the stakeholders, and so on. We just have to be careful that we're not giving away the secret sauce. And I felt good when I see schools panorama or junior panorama because the secret sauce is in good hands. So I saw they say in the secondary school category, NAPS Combined Steel Orchestra, Naparima Guilds, and Naparima College dethroned Bishop Anstey. Hey, I got a lesson, no. Salute to Claire. Salute to Claire Jelly, one of my students over the years. Claire tell me it's Bishop Anstey. I didn't know this at all. It's Bishop Anstey because apparently person name is Bishop Anstey who run in the school. So when you say bishops for short, it's Bishop apostrophe S. Meaning it's the school or Bishop's school. You know what I mean? So we live and learn, right? So it's Bishop Anstey. I didn't know that about Bishop. I know them Bishop birds bad. But I didn't know this part that it was Bishop Anstey. So I appreciate that. So Bishop Anstey joined with Trinity College. And they came second. No, they dethroned. NAPS dethroned them. Let me read the thing. I saw doing this right. In secondary schools category, NAPS Combined Steel Orchestra dethroned Bishop Anstey and Trinity College Steel Orchestra, while Tropical Angel Harps Youth Steel Orchestra bested the 12 other bands in the running when they took the title in the 21 and under category. Most bands went through preliminaries in the respective divisions before competing in the finals. There were no semi-finals in the junior competition. I think in this case, we had to give kudos to the Ministry of Education, everybody who was involved in this. The Ministry of Education, Pan in Schools Coordinating Council, PSCC, and Pan Trinbago. A round of applause for them institutions, man. Because that's no joke among the work and coordination and choreography to get them bands to play at that level. And I was glad to see artists like Marshall Montano go back to his school, Ola Tunji. There are a few artists who were there supporting the bands, which is something that you would typically see for Panorama when an artist pushing the tune. But it was nice to see the artists get involved in the junior Panorama because you had to follow the youths to understand where we're going tomorrow. And if you want to figure out, I mean, I am always rooted in the foundation of what Calypso and Kaiso is. But I do it in such a way that it could be interesting for youths. I always remember that there are young people listening here and some of the music that I might play, as much as I'm trying to stick to the up-to-date music during this season. And but as I stick into that rainy season, but I also want to make sure that we could build the bridge. I feel like you have a responsibility when you're in your 30s and 40s to bridge the gap between those who were here before us and those who coming up, and just never hear or never see certain things. So salute to everybody who was involved in the school's panorama. But I make it to the end, park to hear no pan whatsoever. And I know I promised earlier I'm going in pan yard and thing too, but it's starting to look bleak, you know, being honest with earlier, looking bleak. I don't think I recover fully from Soaka yet. I feel like again the cold. I don't know if it's the cold or the COVID. I take a COVID test, it's saying negative. That's the only reason I started recording now. Cause I tell myself like this COVID trying to hold me. I seen what the numbers looking like. I hear a next address coming up by Dr. Rowley soon. I don't expect anything to change. I'm not sure if the address have anything to do with COVID at all. But every time he say he wants to address people, everybody's kind of get frightened. Go back and listen to what Neola was talking about in our last episode, right? Salute to Neola Zama. Appreciate that always for Neola coming on. You'll find out episode on everywhere you find the episodes right there, talking about New Year's resolutions. But we got a little chance to talk about how triggered we get when any announcement is made that around COVID and around lockdowns and things. But the good news is that I'm not COVID positive. I'm negative. I will keep testing because I ain't feeling good. I ain't feeling 100%. So, hey, we're running through this episode fast, you know. What should I go to next? Should we talk about the RIC? Let me talk about the RIC real quick, right? Oh, no, I had to talk about my Soaka experience. Sorry, I didn't even read Sunday night yet. So, anyway, I went to Soaka. And we do the normal thing, right? We get a driver and we went down and thing and we cool us down in the venue and we get drivers to bring us back because we drink too much to be driving back from any Soaka or anything like that, right? And it was a normal story. The line was moving fast. Gates open at 3 o'clock. We was there a little before 3. As soon as they opened the gates, the lines went in pretty quickly, especially for cooler lines. If you ever went to a cooler fete, sometimes when you go into a cooler fete, the lines could slow down significantly because they have to check for security reasons. I suppose they have to check all the coolers that coming in. But in this case for Soaka, it was pretty smooth. We went in quickly, find a little spot. When I went in, the venue was empty. We was one of the first people in there, so we find a little spot close enough to the stage and everything, and far enough from the little hill at the back of O2 where my boy Pablo could slide down again. We would like to not see Pablo slide down no more hill. Pablo is the slide down champion in the world. When you see Pablo drink, and that water spray in Soaka, any little incline, Pablo is sliding, coming down in the mud. And that ain't starting no Soaka, you know, that's starting Panorama. The amount of time Pablo slide down the North Stand step. For all who would go Panorama in the North Stand back in the day, remember how these steps used to be? It used to have about 12 different staircases coming out the back of the North Stand. And all of them slippery. By the time people pass with cooler and drinks and everything, every step wet. And Pablo used to, every single year, I used to say, Pablo, you walk ahead. Because what you're not going to do is slip and fall behind me. And then 2 we coming down, sliding all the way down to the bottom. And you ain't stopping sliding until you reach the bottom of that step. But we stay far enough from that. We was on the flat. We was close to Air Committee. And the Guru Fitness people had a, what is called that? Like a caravan? I don't even know what it's called that. Like a huge structure inside the fete. And it was nice. I mean, the music and everything was good. Soaka have a vibe in it, a vibe built into it. They have a friendliness, and I was wondering this year with the tickets being much easier to access than it was ever before. Usually people complain about it because it's hard to get tickets, and then you'll go and send a picture yourself. And well, this year, like, it was hard time because they didn't ask for no picture. They didn't ask you to register no band online and thing. I went to the band. They just swipe that band and just keep it moving. You know what I mean? They're just glad people come out to the event. And I was wondering how it would be without Montano. I was just saying his one performance, and he's typically in Soaka. Like, I can't remember if he was in the Soaka in the Savannah last time they had Soaka. Somebody had to help me remember that. I don't think he was, but maybe he was. So I tell myself, well, they had a voice, being the big man in the business right now. They had a Bungie, being the big man in the business, and having the big song in the business. And they were both there. The first performer I saw was Skinny Fabulous. Skinny Fabulous was good. He always solid. You know what I mean? Skinny Fabulous will always give you a good performance. And because he involved in one of my favorite songs this year, that is a song with Nyla. That was nice, and they get the ball rolling early. And by that time, I was a few White Oaks well in it. So I'm trying to remember that I have a review to do for this fete. but I also trying to fet. And things starting to get a little blurry, you know what I mean? But I know I heard lyrical performing and notice I say here because by this time I can't even look up on stage to see who performing or not. That's a strange thing about soca, you know. You don't even watch to see who performing, you just listen. Voice came on and Voice, like the other two, was very, very short. Voice has some of the biggest songs for the year and he's probably the biggest artist in soca right now. He in the red hot space, right? He's the, outside of the veterans, he's the one pulling the biggest crowds in Carnival, right? But I find like he only sing about 3 songs. And I started finding within the White Oaks, I see but something right here, how they rushing through the performances. So and they, you know, sometimes when people performing and they're talking, like if they had to come off the stage soon, like, hey, I had to go, just give me a little piece of, let me give you a little piece of this. And they call me off the stage. Usually when that happens, you have somebody else to perform right after. But that wasn't the case in this. There was no performer that was coming right. There was no point at which performers was coming right after the next. It was big gaps in between, but Voice sing a few songs. Bunji come on and sing a few. I know Bunji sing the hard fet. This was when morning start because I wanted to see who taking the premier spot. Because that's what Marsha would usually do, perform when the sun now come up. And that's when the hoses start to spray and hose start to spray and everybody was spraying, you know what I mean? But Bunji take that spot and that not going to no small fet. That song going to get bigger and bigger and better every week at Carnival. The fets is kind of build songs, and in this era too, there's a uniqueness because before when we used to go real big fet, the fets used to come back to back just like this. Every week was one of them big events, and men would build the songs in the same way they build it now. But one of the things I'm observing now is that the social media helping to build the songs too. And that's something we didn't have access to back then. So what happened is that these performers getting professional videos done every time they perform, which makes sense to promote themselves, right? And then they're doing an Instagram reel showing you soca. I like that as a little marketing strategy, you know. So the fet promoters getting a like wow events, they getting a big push from this because I could tell you that from anybody who didn't go soca and was watching them clips will think that soca was the greatest fet ever. I may say it differently here. But the artist also gets to promote themselves so that, okay, I want to see what Bunji going next week because he real mash up soca and he come on and he get on bad. And certain people, I wouldn't call no names, certain people is celebrating the fact that Bunji sing the song by himself and certain people wasn't on stage singing backup with him. You know, Trinidad is a hell of a place. You know? Women in Trinidad like to talk about wife and this and that. But boy, they ain't like Fian too much, but they're glad Bunji come and sing without Fian. So they're looking forward to next weekend to see where the big fet is, to see what's going to happen. And I suppose that will affect your bookings for the rest of Carnival too, because after that soca performance and them clips that Bunji posts from soca this week, I don't know if anybody wants to have a fet and not put Bunji in that fet right now. Everybody good enough. Everybody good. Or Bunji's the man. But if I remember right, this time I tight like a vice. If I remember right, I only hear Bunji perform that big fet and big bad soca. Facing Fireman, I can't remember. I don't think it's something like very few songs. So he was also on stage for a very short period of time. And then to me, by the time I turn again, the fet just done. The fet come to the most abrupt ending I ever see in my life. But in between there, I saw a lot of people who I don't know why it is West people, when they go a fet, they stand up in the west of the venue. You ever noticed that? All West people. I see a whole set of Fatima men. Too much name to call. But all of them, I ain't talking about just born in the West. You see all who went to school in the West and things, just head on the west side of the venue. And you'll see all of them lying on the outskirts. I understand. And the west point in soca is the furthest point from the gate, which means they walk through all that crowd to come in the west side. When you're in the west, you really feel it better. And also, I suppose I get some fet reviews from some people. Salute my boy Clint. My boy Clint won my fet review. But to be honest with you, the time I'm recording here might be too late to call Clint phone. And I also met a Corey Shepherd podcast fan in the fet. Now I'll tell you this, right? By that time I had heavy bad. And I remember walking into the fete. This is the first time I ever went soca without my wife, right? My wife bust out and she went and traveled and she leave me to go soca. I was 2 months and I wasn't going nowhere. But I went and looking for debauchery now. I say, well, you ever watch the movie Hall Pass? I say, I'm bad for the weekend. It's mayhem. And all the hall pass, I get hall pass, I drop asleep the night at Iron Park, no iron whatsoever. I sleep whole day Saturday. And then when time to go soca, 2 mine. And as I ready to start the debauchery, as I walk in the gate, a little girl who doing the, let me say little girl, when you get always call all kind of people little girl now, a young lady who doing promotions and things, who I don't know the girl face, pretty little girl, I don't know her face from nowhere. She handed me a pack of Doritos or something and she say, "Hi, Mr. Stacy." All the buttery finish. Under surveillance. So when somebody stopped me later on in the fete, now my head completely bad. They say, "You are Corey Shepherd." I say, "Oh, Jesus Christ, they catch me." I say, "I get catch." And she tell me she's listening to the podcast. So I say, "Well, listen, if you're a listener, you had to call, because looking for people to call about the fete and them kind of thing." She said, "Yes, for sure." And I say, "All right, when I pass back, I will take your number, boy. I clean forget it." So, ma'am, whoever you are, thank you for letting me know you're listening to the podcast, but also message me now, DM me, find me on Instagram and DM me so you could call in now. It would be nice to call in and get some other people's perspective. But I somehow, maybe it's just because my wife wasn't there, and I'm a fete partner, I tell you. Like when we fetting, we fetting. And there are quite a few songs, a few times, they say, "Ride on till you lie down." There were a few times, that Mrs. Shepherd Bob had to lie down in the fete. In the soca self. Many, many years running. And had to be bodily removed from soca. She could tell you it's not true, but it's true. She sleep on all kind of Rubbermaid table and cool her all over the place. So I don't know if that is the part I miss and I enjoy myself fully, but it wasn't the greatest soca I ever saw. And I don't know if it's Marshall not being there or also plenty other headliners where it have big songs that you could hear, like only bring lyrical and they look back and thing in the night still, not in the daytime when the water done spraying, that look back supposed to come in the water. I get instructions from my wife, she said, "Go, enjoy yourself, wine on whoever you want. Just don't make no eye contact." But the way my eyesight set up, and my contact lens don't come out, I can't make eye contact with nobody. Me sure who making eye contact with me. So also if I pass you straight in the fete, sorry, that's saying this as a general carnival thing, right? If I pass you straight, pull me and call your name, I go hear you. My hearing good since my eyesight bad. But I don't find it was the best thing. I don't know if it was because Marshall wasn't performing, if they didn't put enough artists on the bill. We can get to see no Patricia Roberts, no little Kess. And I'm saying this with being completely inebriated. I'm not sure if they was there, but I didn't see none of them. You know what I mean? People who you would want to see during the carnival season, and soca is usually give you that. And it wasn't really there. And the height of Marshall coming on was missing. And I also find like the fete just finished. This is hard to explain, right? Because now your boy is tight like a vice. I ain't drinking again and I've done that. Now when I go fete, I'm drinking water. But after Bungie come off this stage, music play for a little while. A little while. Let me say an hour. Because time might be moving slow under the substances, right? But it couldn't be much more than that before I notice the song stop and I see a line of police. Like lining off, if you know the O2, the most western part of O2 is bush. And there's usually put all the washrooms going up that side. And they just basically line up the whole length of the venue, which is a long space. And I mean, it's a big place. And start to walk people out. Now, this is a new thing, eh? This is something that is new to me, this whole concept. When I say new, it's only within the last 5 to 10 years that a fete could finish and police line up and usher you out of the fete. They form a human barricade and start walking down on people, so you have to leave the venue. I would have loved for them to try that. And what Bungie say? Brass Festival, Fire Fete, Wasser Fete, and the Power Pill Fete on them. I would have loved to see police try that back then. You could imagine police in PSA trying to walk. That would be a bad idea. I remember a time in Brass Festival in PSA. Them days, I don't know what was going on with Patrick Manning and Snags was the commissioner. But every big fete it had, they was going up in front of the fete, and their whole security detail was basically making space for them. I talk more in front of the stage, premium spot. It had no VIP in for them time, you know. So when you're walking straight up to the front of the stage, and they used to come up, both of them and their wives, and they would clear a big space in the I'm talking about something like sometimes 20 feet diameter. And the police surround them, and they stand up and taking the artists and fete in the middle of the fete. I think one of the most stupid things I've ever seen. And I remember seeing them doing it in Brass Festival. They was doing it all year long. And if you know how them fetes is, you see licensing, flower, brass, customs. There's the same crowd going to all them fetes. You know? So by the time they reach Brass, people done fed up at them. And boy, they go on in the middle there and they start a Lego bottle. Them days they done had no glass bottle in fete already. People started pelt, all kind of thing. And what you going to do? They only putting the police in a spot there. So they had to kind of cover their wife now and let the police usher them all the way back. I bet you they'll never do that again. Because they come in and take a prime space in the middle of what make all this so special now? They should clear out everybody else who pay for the ticket to come the thing. I guess that's where VIP come from, and that was the genesis of it. But now these police make this barricade and walk you all the way out the fete. So they do that from the furthermost part of the venue and walk all the way down till they reach the gate and everybody clear out. I don't like it. I don't understand what's the purpose of it. Because if the fete done, why they need to run you out the fete? Because them want to go home, or because it's time to start a cleanup, or what is going on? I remember seeing some scenes at the end of Insomnia in the very O2 Park. I remember one time, one of the water truck men, like he wanted to leave. He get fed up at the fete, and Iowa was performing still, and he tried to drive out the venue, but there's so much people he can't pass out. And he decided he going to drive through the middle of the front. And I was on stage trying to tell this man, hey, you cannot drive over all them cables. He said, there are hundreds of thousands of equipment you're going to mash up if you drive over that. And it caused a big scene because people started to pelt the girl in the truck started to pelt people. I feel as the girl in the truck caused it too, because the truck man looking like he on the ground, like a little cockroach. And it was a whole scene. So I'm not sure what causing this or what is the reason for it and putting people out, but I just find Soaka end abruptly. It end like meh. No little thanks for coming out to Soaka 2023, the best Soaka ever. Nothing. The music just stopped and they push you out the venue. Now I would love to tell you what time that was, but the way they wake in White Oak these days, I couldn't tell you. But apparently I'm not the only one who has issues with the police. I see plenty issues with the police this week, and I reluctantly want to play a little clip from one of these things, because I find people like they getting brave in this country. Yes, people like they saying whatever it is they want now. We used to be frightened to talk and thing, but clearly the Trinidad and Tobago Promoters Association and their president Rome is clearly not afraid of anybody. Rome bad like yes. I don't know how we have so much belly. But let me play for you a little piece of what it is Rome saying, because like they get Rome vexed.
And Tobago, and we are having a big issue with the police service of Trinidad and Tobago, and we are here this afternoon to call them out on it and to say, get your act together.
That's good to see CNC true, right? I'm Rome. You know how police is work in this country. We're on Rome. Rome is from here. Rome, you from somewhere else. So, just as I was saying last week or week before about the Grocers Association coming together and the Pharmacists Association, and that's one of the first things business people do, form themselves into association so they could negotiate collectively. They compete with one another, but I can tell you they always collude. So, as suspected, there is a Trinidad and Tobago Promoters Association. And the people in Trinidad and Tobago Promoters Association, they're fed up with these police, led by Rome as the president of the association. I mean, I don't know how much fed Rome this promoter. Anyway, I'm reading from The Guardian, from CNC3, sorry, this is from Angelo Jedediah. The TNT Promoters Association claims the TNT Police Service is making it difficult for them to keep ticket prices down for Carnival event. That deserves 2 rounds of applause, right? Promoters, dear promoters, Is it the police service that is making it hard for you to keep your ticket prices down? Wow. So the police is the problem. Why cooler fete is $600 and $700 and you have nothing to get inside the fete, and artists performing for 10 minutes a piece and rushing off the stage as if they have plenty of artists to perform when there are very, very few. This is what's keeping all it from, I understand now, is the police. The police, all right, cool. At a press conference yesterday at the Queen's Hall, St. John's, TTPA President Jerome Rome Priscilla said there has been a 15 to 50% drop in attendance at Feds this carnival season. So they're calling on the TTPS to get their act together. Only want me to stop talking about 1%ers, but I love this 1% discussion. Because the flip side of this 1% discussion for me is this. When people who, the Trinidad and Tobago Promoters Association, I'm assuming, is all the FET promoters in the country. I don't know if it includes promoters outside of the FET season. But my words always compete. That is my problem, that all your FETs, all your private business venture is down 15 to 50%. Is that a me problem? Is that a societal problem, or that is you as a business person problem? Because while the attendance is down 15 to 50% on average, all your fets in sold out. All of the so what is going on is heavy complimentary, only giving people to come fet to make it look full. What is happening? Only level it, man. Let me understand what is happening. Less people going, but all the events still sold out. Only pulling in the venue, only tightening up the space. So when all the other space before, I want to use Private Ryan as an example on Carnival Saturday. The last time I went to that, they had at least 500,000 people inside there. Is it that it's going to go back to the smaller days when Private Ryan was nice? Because I'm not going back that. I cannot enjoy that again. It going back to that. And your decline of 15 to 50%, the police is responsible and they have to get their act together because your attendance gone down by 15. Brother, it's a business you running. I don't think people, so you see, we like this idea. I am a firm believer in businesses being the decision maker. Going back to economics a little bit, no, sorry. But as for, when we teach in an economics course, right, there's talk about economics being a study of scarcity and choice. The reality is that as human beings, we are greedy, insatiable appetite. So people like to call it ambition, right? We want more and more. We never satisfied. We're never happy with what we have or what we could get. As soon as you get a house, you want a bigger house. As soon as you get a nice place to rent, you want a nice place to buy. You get a nice car, you want a nice SUV. You live a good life, you want your children to do better. That is how we are as human beings. Our wants are unlimited. But our resources are limited, and resources come in the form of your time, your money, and your energy. They're limited. You don't have unlimited resources. So when they say economics is about scarcity and choice, what they're trying to say is that what we're doing in economics is trying to find out how to fulfill unlimited wants with limited resources. That makes sense? So one of the biggest issues in economics is how are resources going to be distributed? Because as an individual, you have to try to figure out, what do I do with my resources? What do I do with my time so I can get the best satisfaction? What do I do with my money? What do I do with my energy? And but when I'm making decisions on behalf of people, which is what we call macroeconomics, right? When you look at a society, the government have a responsibility in our form of governance where they have to decide on what people get and who. So we have resources as a country. How are they distributed? We collect a certain money in taxes. We make a certain money in exports, whatever it is we make. So we have $30 billion. I have to decide how the resources are going to be allocated. We're going to go and fix road. We're going to go to police service. We're going to go to nursing and healthcare and whatever it might be. What's education? What we're going to give away to people and things. We're going to put in jersey and things for them to vote for we and all that, right? The issue is this. There are 3 schools of thought in terms of how resources should be distributed or allocated in our country. There are what you call a command economy, where the boss just say who get what, right? So think of any country that you might call communist or whatever word you want to use, socialist. Think of any country like that, and you would find that the ruling body, whether the ruling body has been elected or not, they decide how the resources are distributed in the country. It could be elected, or it could be like a monarchy where people born into power. So think of North Korea as being a crude example, right? Kim Jong-un go decide what resources go where, and he doesn't have to take any input from anybody else. There's no consensus. There's no democracy necessary. He decides what goes where. There's a famous story about him building a golf course, and when he hit a bunker, the next time they come on the golf course, it's not no bunker there. You understand? So he is the man who makes all the decisions, and he have the people in a grip. They're moving from him as their leader. It's not easy to remove him. The next side of it is called a market economy, where markets decide how resources are allocated, which is markets is just demand and supply. If I have something to sell, if people willing to buy it and they're willing to pay the price, that is what will determine who can get it. If you cannot pay the price, you cannot get it. You see me? I believe in that system. In Trinidad and Tobago, we have a system called a mixed economy, where we have some balance between the market determining things. But one of the drawbacks with a market economy, or demand and supply determining who gets what, is that you have people in societies who have a disadvantage. They may be not physically the same as everybody else, or mentally the same, or they may have their upbringing might not be the same. So if you find that you have people who disadvantaged by default, they're starting off at a minus basically. And in mixed economies, the government tries to balance that out by leaving some of it up to demand and supply. And then when demand and supply, everybody gets what they want, then they start to intervene to say, okay, well, it would be in the best welfare everybody if people had affordable housing and free healthcare and free education. You get where I'm coming from? So but those of us who could afford would pay for our children to go to school, we'd pay and go private hospitals, but we might not want to live in a society where if somebody can't get medical care at all or can't afford it, they just die or they get sick, and all of us get sick, right? So we have the mixed, we have the command, and we have the market economy. This turns into a class real fast. This is a podcast still now. But the point I'm making is that the reason I go back to the 1% and so on is because the businesses, I believe, are the best way to determine how things are distributed in our economy. The government should play a smaller and smaller role, only to help those who cannot afford it. And we will come back to that, those who cannot afford it as well. So when I hear business people like this, what it tells me is that we have people who want to be in the 1%, but they basically still want all the government control and the government protection that they could possibly get, which is an issue. So going back to my boy Rome, he say 15% to 50% drop at feds for Carnival, so police had to get their act together. He said they have not had control over the crime rate and they want to send extra police officers because it's deemed a hotspot. We fully welcome that, but not at our cost. Rome, I don't know what you're saying. I think you're contradicting yourself. We can all agree that the police don't have control over the crime rate. We can also agree that the police not responsible for the crime rate. Police has come after crime, right? There's a certain element of policing that is preventative, but a huge part of what the police doing is after crimes committed. A lot of the crimes in this country have to do with broader issues than policing, right? Much broader societal issues. And to tell you the truth, when I see you're going into a place like Soaka, or today's version of a big fete, and you see a good police presence, I don't know about all, but I just feel a little better about that than if I ain't seeing no police or no kind of security at all. For instance, I remember playing Mass last year, or some years ago, I played Mass with, played Juve with, I won't call the band name to make it bad for them, but their security breakdown, they broke down somewhere near the Oval. So we were by the last truck, and it was just people from the streets and everybody who come together, right? It was just a huge crowd. You could barely move. And it's me and Stacy playing together, and I feel uncomfortable. I feel unsafe. I feel like any number could play or anything would happen. And I kind of like the idea of when you're playing with Tribe or Humor or Fantasy when years are playing. I kind of like the idea that I could lose myself for a few days and have security on both sides of the rope, and they're present and they're visible. So it feels the same way when you see police there to me, right? But he went on to say, we all have police officers, bills ranging from 18,000, 38,000 and over 100,000. We have had to pay as promoters for some events. We have had to pay as promoters for some events for police to attend. I thought police had to attend all events. He said the TTPA is aware of the importance of having police officers present at events, but the process has no structure. I could agree with him. It is it's not only the police, it's both the police and the court that we have issues with. Sometimes you get court dates for your event on the day of your event. You're going out there to get your police strength. They hit you with a police bill. You have to find the money, pay the police, come back to court and get it. You have no time to dispute this because your event is probably the same night. Priscilla said promoters met with the TTPS on the issue, but nothing has been resolved. The TTPA also claimed they are unsure of the roles and responsibilities of police officers when they attend events in their numbers, armed and making fetes feel like a war zone. Yeah, this had started like back in brass days. I remember what all of us who went those big fetes back in the day would remember when the police presence had changed in the fetes. And the police started to become a menacing force in the fetes, where they would walk through the fetes in lines of like 10, 12 of them. And it was menacing. They were aggressive. You couldn't really dance when they passed, and they was very serious. They would push you out of the way. Their face covered sometimes. It was bad. I don't know that was necessary, but I will admit that only came about because fetes got extremely violent. So I want Bunji to add a little last verse in that big fete song where he could talk about how much a bus face and bus head and stabbing and all them kind of thing was in fete too. Because when they're talking about bringing back them days, I hope they remember what those days also brought with them. So people seem to forget. They just feel the wildness wasn't always just the fun wildness. It was a wildness where heavy wallet used to be thrown up on stage. You would be fetting and see wallets flying up on the stage incessantly, where people just take money and pile the wallet up on the stage. Crowds of people was busting off people watch off their hand, busting off your jewelry. I remember I went to a fete somewhere in, I want to say it's like Jenny's car park or somewhere in that side, a UE Splash or something, and they bust my chain off my neck and go on. You can't even turn around to fight nobody because I remember the same thing happened with Pablo as well, going watercolors when watercolors was still up in Coconuts, Valley View. And Pablo used to have his wallet on a chain, you know, them kind of thing where you chain it on your belt loop and it's in your pocket. I remember seeing the person like pulling off the chain and taking, and when you're going to approach the person, now we can't walking behind Pablo, it's about 10 of them surround you to keep it moving. You know what they have in their hand. So I understand that the police response might have been to that. But I think it was overkill, because now for the law-abiding innocent fete goer, it just become a whole discomfort seeing the police and them kind of numbers. And I remember feeling that on Sunday morning when the police line off and just basically ushering people out the fete. Like if it's a, you would usually see them things, and you see them big protests in France going on this week, or you see it in the Black Lives Matter movement where police line off and the crowd line off like that. I honestly find that is unnecessary, because the police Sunday morning, not only are they lined off and ushering people, they're not even saying anything to anybody. They're just all in black and they just walking, coming. And if you don't move, they move in you, because all them walking slowly coming. When they could also just say, all right, folks, it's time to head out to the venue. I mean, with people doing all this, people the same way. Why we can't just say, hey, because, all right, so take it out to the people with the stabbing and the bus face and things. Soaka is clearly a peaceful crowd. I ain't see no pushing, no fighting, no nothing. You could also just, we could talk, you know, he's a human, but I don't know what it is these police trying to show. This show of force. So I agree with Roman on a couple aspects of it, where the show of force can make people feel more uncomfortable. But I feel like if they do it the right way, it should be making you feel more comfortable. The police could still be personable and nice in the little fete space and thing, and you know what I mean, be cool. You don't have to come down tactical like if you're expecting mayhem. And this is something that is generally an issue with the way we operate in Trinidad as a whole. He says there's no rules and regulations. He's unsure of the roles and responsibilities of the police, because they still have their own private security to pat down people and think police ain't doing that. Police, I suppose, is incident related. If something happened, they respond. But also, why by now, having a festival of this size every single year for the past 100 and something years maybe? Why we not at the point yet that something can be clearly said that, okay, if you're selling X amount of tickets, you need X amount of police. How come it still seems to be a judgment that happens every single time, and we had to be able to tell you I mean, the gate receipt should be clear. Exactly how much tickets you sell, all that should be part of your application. How much you intend to sell, how much you end up selling, how much police you need, what kind of incidents you would have had in this event before. You have other events, what kind of incidents you have in those events. Like, you go some of these fets. I went many fets over the years, but I could tell you there are some fets where nothing do happen. You go in Soaka, I never see no incident like no big fight and thing in Soaka. I never see it in none of Kyrie people events. Kyrie people, all even Kyrie people do all the fight now is like the Tyson fight in homes now. I mean, no go and fight in a Kyrie people event. Not saying that it can't happen, but I don't think the police presence that is needed in a Kyrie people event could possibly be the same as the police presence in an event that I will not call, right? So I don't want to make it sound no way. But the guidelines should be clear as to what people could expect when they go into this, because again, it's a business. But salute Marsha Messiah, who was giving me some insight into why the 1%ers in the carnival were wicked. But a part of the issue is that our carnival promoters willing to be open and transparent about their gate fees and their receipts and how much complimentaries they gave out and so on. I find this should be public information. You're running a private business, there's a public space you're inviting people into, your venue roving, you have 3 or 4 events. Give me more information to be able to make my decision about what type of fets I go to, what is safe for me. Because Soaka gives no, our events have a habit of doing this, they give no insight into who is going to be performing at the event, what is going to happen. We don't know how much people will be at the venue. It would be nice if it has somewhere publishing showing that, okay, this event is a 20,000 person kind of event. This event is a 10,000 people. This one is a 500. But I don't know if promoters willing to give that amount of information about themselves. Because it's rumored that they do as much as they can not to pay any taxes. I could say it like that without running into any problems. It's rumors, it's alleged. So yeah, that was my Soaka experience. The police situation, I'm not sure. When you get a chance, go on CNC3 and look for an article that says promoters say police at fetes too costly. And look at the way the police dressed in the fete. You know what I mean? It's looking like if they come into a war zone. But salute to Rome. At least Rome is willing to gangster the police and so on. I find Rome was upset, boy. Rome come to talk on behalf of the people. He in temper, language, and no kind of way at all. I find you very brave. But I also saw another article. Let me just stick to police now and get through all the police topics one time. They say Earl Christopher looking like the next person in line for the police commissioner. It looked like McDonald Jacob looked like that is it for him. It's over. His term is done. See a little bit of back and forth about that too, whether his term should have been done or not. But it looked like, for all intents and purposes, he on the way out. And just like Paula May Weeks, salute to Christine Kangaloo too. We have a new president. Salute to Paula May Weeks. She say she do a good job. She was happy with the job she did. McDonald Jacob in the same position basically, but we're asking about Earl Christopher now. So opposition Senator Wade Mark questioned whether acting commissioner of police Earl Christopher had been handpicked by the government to become the substantive commissioner of police after Commissioner of Police McDonald Jacobs' contract was not renewed. Mark asked the question during the news conference at the opposition leader's office in Charles Street on Sunday. Jacob was appointed as Deputy Commissioner of Police in April 2021 by a contract for 3 years, but the Police Service Commission subsequently determined that the contract was null and void on the basis that he was still a serving officer on leave when he was recruited. He was then given an extension under Section 75 of the Police Service Act, which had to be evaluated every 12 months before it's extended. Jacob celebrated his 61st birthday on Saturday. That's Saturday. Go on, happy birthday, Jakes. Where's your birthday, Mac? He'd been on vacation since the first week in December. Yeah, we remember when he was going on vacation and all that. Well, I mean, Commissioner Jacob, I find, did very little to inspire confidence. The crime numbers was high. It was ridiculously high. And murder in particular, it was getting higher and higher. I think last year ended up being the highest we've ever seen. But you know how I feel about that. I don't feel like that falls squarely on a police commissioner. I remember one of the first things in his tenure was that he used to talk a lot about the numbers. He was a real stats man. And then by the end, when the statistic was being used against him, he wasn't such a stats man anymore. But the man said he tried best with what he had. He bring us to a point, so I hand over looking like it's Eminent and it looking like Earl Christopher. So as much as I want to continue to stick to the this year calypsos, I would talk about that a little bit because see people is make a call now to say don't play no old song in fete. Only play this year. I do not understand that notion. Somebody had to help me understand that. But in the spirit of the fact that I find they should play music from all the years because we can't continue producing disposable music where every year the song finish. A good song is a good song. And since we're looking like we're going to have a woman police commissioner, it's only right that we play certain kind of song here.
They should have woman police in Trinidad. Bet your life, spoiler would be more than glad. They should have woman police in Trinidad. Bet your life, spoiler would be more than glad. Only waiting till one keeping duty. I running right away and a kissing she. And when she snatch onto me, I won't say a word. But I hugging up my police going down the road. And all the time, I pulling me from she for she to hold me tight. The woman police must hold me tight. And I doing all that was right for she to hold me tight, tight, tight. A fella told me they would be more bad than the male police we have in Trinidad. But I don't care, they can be bad like a cobra. Don't talk when you see I drink my liquor. And I put in from west to east. I walking right away and hug up my police. She can hold me round my neck, squeeze me till I dead. But I kissing from she waist right up to she head. And all the time I pulling me from she for she to hold me tight. The woman police must hold me tight. And I doing all that was right for she to hold me tight, tight, tight. And when she carry me inside the chat room, a coupling of my police like a bridegroom. When the female sergeant asks me anything, is a heap to do darling, a answering. Honey chunks, my love, sweet coquette. I know by those names she would start to fret. But she can beat me, she can put me, tear down my clothes. I retreating, advancing for my blows. And all the time, I pulling me from she to hold me tight. The woman police must hold me tight. And I doing all that was right for she to hold me tight, tight, tight. I'd be a real nuisance in the place, of course. If they really was to have woman police force, give them Tommy guns, give them hand grenades. Bet your life I am afraid I'm making the grade. Yes, I'm going through the battle zone, just to hug up you till my Polly and Joan. They can shoot down spoiler, I might die no doubt, but with the print of a lipstick on top of my mouth, and that is why I'm holding me from the to hold me tight. The woman police must hold me tight, and I'm doing all that was fight for she to hold me tight, tight, tight.
So good luck to Earl Christopher. Is Earl Christopher calling you right now? Good luck to you. I hope the as the commissioner of police, we need a change of pace. Should I read what McDonald Jacobs was saying? Boy, let me just get the man you right send off. From the Express, Alexander Bruzol. McDonald Jacobs said goodbye to Trinidad and Tobago Police Service yesterday morning. He believed he did his best in every position he held in the service, including as the country's acting commissioner of police. The TTPS is where I've been for over 40 years. I can honestly say that I've done my best throughout my entire tenure. From the crime and problem analysis to the work done in Port of Spain Division where we saw reductions in serious crimes and homicides via various initiatives. To the work done in Northern Division to Project Grace and the mediation systems the TTPS has been implemented in communities, Jacob told the Sunday Express in an interview. I've always given my best and done my best, he maintained, even when I was fortunate enough to receive the office of Commissioner of Police at a time when we were coming out of a pandemic and the economy was what it is. I still did the best with what I was given. He also praised his deputies and assistants. We did our best because I hold my deputy commissioner and assistant commissioners in high esteem, as this is a job that is not about one man but about the team that is there to be led. So as of right now, I just want to say it was an absolute pleasure. Mark, I get a hard time here, a real bad talking in this podcast, and because at times I really feel you could have been more present and say a little more than you were saying. I mean, I just want to make sure that we know his credentials too. He holds a LLB in law with honors from London University, a postgraduate degree in mediation studies from UE, a master's degree in criminology and criminal justice from UE, several diplomas in police leadership and management, and is qualified in crime and intelligence analyst. So, all that to say, he's probably going to be a consultant. He also said he launching a foundation, right? Where he, let me make sure I shine some light on the foundation. When he ponging people, you must get a little spotlight to it. I've already been contacted by persons to do some work with them within the area of conflict resolution and mediation and other aspects of community work. So what I will do after I've spent my time with my family is sift through the offers to find out what I think would be most meaningful and then participate in it. I also have plans to launch a Jacob Foundation, if you will, to help with schooling and personal development of young persons between the ages of 10 and 25. So when I'm ready, there will be plans I will be working on. It's not a matter of standing still, it's a matter of being appreciative of the work done, the work I've done with persons, and now support from family I would have received. And to give all that back, I would have learned, and to give back all that I would have learned and all I would have experienced to the next generation. Salute to you, McDonald Jacob. The Olderness Commissioner of Police. They have one thing that I want to highlight that he said there. It's not a one-man job. So sometimes even I put myself on this and blame myself for this too, where sometimes you get caught up with the idea of a police commissioner not doing enough or not being present enough, when we had to remember that this is teamwork. And this is where I feel we're missing an opportunity here, because if McDonald Jacobs' strengths and qualifications are in mediation and conflict resolution and that type of thing, and even in his personality, now that you see the way he's talk and his calm and measured approach, except for one incident in Diego Martin, which I didn't understand, but again, he got misled, then he might be somebody who's very good to keep in and around the police force, because conflict resolution is something that we could certainly use in this society today on several levels. Domestic violence, road rage, gang violence. I think conflict resolution is a skill that even as Rilla Christopher goes into that post, let's assume that she's not as strong as him in that area. This might be a good man for you to keep around to help with those kind of things. He might be the best man to show up on the ground where incidents happen or make statements to the public, but certainly if that's where his strength lies on conflict resolution. Now, one of the highlights of his tenure I'll always remember is the way he showed up when that Pennywise robbery went down, where there were innocent people shot and killed, and I believe one woman who was holding on for her life. I wonder if that woman make it. I never follow up on that story too much. But the bandits, if you remember, had run into the back of a lady's house and a shootout ensued. They imagine you home and people running by you, and then there's a shootout. And I always remember his compassion in that gallery with the old lady there who was talking about the situation. And that idea of conflict resolution and you could see the empathy that he had for the person there. It make me wonder why he wasn't on the ground more. But if that's his strength, and maybe we could not put somebody else there who facing the same set of issues, because unless the fabric of society change or the structure of our society change or our culture changes, the crime situation not going to change. So to put a woman there now to eventually be disliked by everybody and everybody bad talking them and looking ineffective and stuff, I don't know if it's useful at all. We spinning top in mud. Maybe it's time to treat this as a team effort, so we have several people with several different types of skills who are the helm of an institution like the police force. But talking about outgoing letters, I have from Camille Hunt in the Express here. Outgoing President Paula May Weeks says she has no regrets about her time in the office of the president and believes she served the country well. Everybody seems to think so. It's good. Weeks reflected on her tenure during an interview on Tobago Channel 5 on Tuesday night ahead of tomorrow's meeting at the Electoral College where her successor will be elected. Successor turned out to be Christine Kangulo, right? So salute to Christine Kangulo as well. I have absolutely no regrets, Paula. Funny way of talking about the police commissioner just now. She said, I've had an opportunity to do something only 5 people up to now have been able to do. Wow, I never even thought of it that way. That's amazing. And it was a most interesting experience. I've been grateful for all the opportunities, all of the lovely people that I have met, all of the people that I have worked with over the years, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Weeks, however, noted that people may have expected her to speak out more, particularly on the issue of racism. I wonder where she come up with that. That's kind of random. The president in a 2020 Independence Day message had denounced the racist rants engaged by supporters of the government and the opposition in the wake of the August 10, 2020 general election results. She said many felt that she should have spoken sooner. People always want the president to speak, and they thought I should have spoken out about that. But we live in an extremely polarized society, and it's very important that people feel that the president is impartial and has no horse in the race. Weeks said people have a tendency to interpret things in their own ways, and there was a risk of inadvertently and innocently appearing to be less than impartial. So a president, I believe, must be very careful in our society, especially being a non-executive president. One must be very careful to not only be impartial, but to appear impartial. Sometimes that means not speaking when others have license to speak. I mean, the president, well, if I should have a president still. You know what? Let me tell you what I don't like about this process, right? I don't like how the opposition had to oppose for the sake of opposing. And in that, they seem to be willing to tear down people's name. Yeah, people are your supporters in the square calling human Christine Kangaroo. But I mean, what that is about? We're children or we're adults? Are we supposed to be big people? When we turn to be little children, so we're making fun of people's name and them kind of thing. I find it so embarrassing for us as a people. I just shame when I see grown adults stoop into that as part of a way to discredit people. But I mean, I guess their role, what they want to do is make the person look bad, make the government look incompetent, make things look like, they pick the worst possible person. And it seems as though something happening in the UNC too, because people ain't voting along with the party again. I always find that a good sign, but it's clear that they have some kind of issues in their ranks. But what's all your thoughts? We should still have a president? There'll still be a queen and a president, like non-executive leadership in our country. I feel it have a role, like pomp and ceremony have a role with continuity of cultures and, even as little children, things to look up to on a certain, call it pageantry around the history of the country and who we are and that kind of thing. I feel like if the value of it comes in having something that is above the politics. Because the politics could get so nasty and petty and corrupt in different ways and corruptible. The politics don't look good sometimes. And because the politicians are the leaders of the country, I kind of like the idea of having a buffer where you have somebody who remains above the fray. Hopefully, I mean, it would be naive to say the person politically neutral, right? But at least acts politically neutral. And maybe even along with what Paula May Weeks is saying, who is keep quiet a little bit. Who is stay quiet a little bit and don't try to respond to every single issue that's out there. Because, I mean, it's not necessary. And we need somebody who represents the country in a way where people could still feel good about the country, still respect the country, because some of what we see in the country from the political level is not a good representation of who we are and who we want to be and what we want to represent. You know what I mean? So, salute to Paula May Weeks. I mean, if you say you do a good job, who's me to tell you no? And I'm hoping that Christine Kangaroo come and do a good job too. I trust that she will. You know what I mean? She might just come and keep quiet too, and maybe that is what we should expect more of where president is concerned. Keep quiet, make a little speech, stay above the thing. Don't ever come down into the mud, and keep we looking good as a country. Now, with all the thing, right, and all these sort of stories, anything major to talk about here? We still have to talk about the RIC. I really promised earlier that I was going to highlight some of these singers who's always come correct with groovy. Every year they're in the groove and they have a sweetness about their songs. So I want to take a pause here and just recognize the legend and the greatness that is Farmer Nappy.
Right now we come to start the party. See Martin and Farmer Nappy. We come to make all the girls them happy. Watch day, I see the clowns them start to set. And we don't even reach the venue yet. This might be a night we won't forget. Cause as soon as we step in the bed, it's gone like rain, flowing like water. Whip me down with your bumper. Whip me down, it's gone like rain. And we don't want no umbrella. Whip me down with your water. Whip me down. gonna risk it. Watch how you step in.
Girls for the soca, girls for the zessin. The party swinging on the champagne popping. Girl are taking the wetting, taking the champagne. The water kinda risky. Watch how you step in.
Girls for the soca, girls for the zestin, Lord. Come on.
Like you get sweet on me, girl, when you're looking at me so dirty. If you push back anymore, I go start to grind on you. Dirty.
A party with one bag of woman is the sweetest life. Once the lightning strike 2 times and you get the thunder wine. The weather might be bad, but it's not a hurricane.
Even if you close out down on your white pants, get a step. Please don't complain.
It's got like rain, flowing like water. Wet me down with your bumper. Wet me down. It's got like rain, and we don't want no umbrella. Wet me down with your water. Wet me down, mix me down. Girl, I taking the wetting, taking the jamming. This water gonna risk it. Watch how you step in.
Girls for the soca, girls for the zessin. The party swinging on the champagne popping. Girl are taking the wetting, taking the jamming. The water kinda risky. Watch how you step in.
Girls for the soca, girls for the zesty, Lord.
Come on.
Come on. Girl like rain, rain.
Like water. Wet me down with your water. I don't know nobody wet me down again for the rest of Carnival, no, because you hear I song in one little wet again, Soaka. I can't recover. I don't know if Soaka this year is ice water they bathe people with. Now, even they cold. But alright, let me talk about this RIC real quick, right? Regulation and Industries Commission, what is it called them? That's the right name, Regulation and Industries Commission. They say that they had to raise the thing by about somewhere between 40-something% and 60-something%, right? Yeah, let me make sure I have this right. So from between 15% and 65%. So right now we're going through the process where is a consultation happening, right? Roving consultation. They're taking feedback through the community. And we see some political advocates. Well, like Jack Warner. I don't know if he's still in the political scene. But now might be a good time for him to fight extradition through gaining political clout. And Marsha Walker, impassioned pleas by people not to raise any rates, or at least not to raise it so high. And one of the discussions, one of the things I see was floating around social media is a man on the commission, on the panel, basically saying how much kilowatts people is used right through, and that is not the average citizen they're talking about, because you had to have an air condition to be using. I think it was 700 kilowatts he was saying, so for people who have higher bills. Now, my bill is high, I'll admit. I will also admit that I can do a lot better, or we in this household could do a lot better to conserve electricity. But our bill is pretty high. So I hear Miguel Cassia talking about $100 bills, and I trying to figure out how your bill is $100 every 2 months. My bill is high. I don't want to tell you what it is, but it'll high. And I don't think people will ever welcome a rate increase for any reason. I want to commend them for doing a consultation on it. I think it's a useful thing to do. Even if they never take into consideration anything anybody say in the consultation or taking any of the feedback, desensitizing people to it and easing people into these increases would be a better strategy to me than just coming and say, hey, the rate going up, especially when you're talking about 15 to 64%, which that's something less like a range to me than a sliding scale, meaning they would start with a 15% increase, but where they would really want to get to is 64. But I think it's fair to say that in this country, we've never paid the real cost of having electricity to our homes. It has been subsidized since forever and ever, and we had oil money, and oil money was paying for most of it. I don't think it ever should have done that. That was a bad idea in the first place. That's what have us here and feeling like if we should have $100 bills. Let me tell you a story about when I went to Jamaica, right? I remember going to Jamaica and I used to rent an apartment by some people named Mr. and Mrs. Blake, some of the nicest people I've ever met. And let me get to the end of this story is that many times they came to cut my lights, and Mr. Blake and them used to pay it for me, and I would just pay them back. You know what I mean? They're such nice people. I was young and I was 26 years old when I went to Jamaica. I think maybe even 25. And, 26 years old, 26 to 28, 29 is when I was in Jamaica, trying to figure things out business-wise. And you're young, you're immature, and you don't know nothing, and you feel you know everything. It's such a place to be in life. But I was really taken care of by the Blakes. And one of the first things they told me is that listen, electricity bill high. We notice when you leave, you leave on the light and your ceiling fan on, and I realize you have on your water heater whole day, and I think to myself, I'll pay because I ain't turning off that water heater. I'll try and turn off the light and thing when I leave, and that's just bad habit. But what you want me to do when I ready to bathe, I have to turn on this water heater and wait for water to heat. Well, let me tell you this. The first bill I get was 15,000 Jamaican dollars. That might be just about 1,200 TTO at the time. And I could not believe that's the most expensive electricity bill I had ever seen in my life up to that point. Because up to that point, my mother's electricity bill used to be $300 or two something. And that thing was $15,000. But well, boy, I in shock. I was like, what? Well, I started to do enough thing one time. I was watching TV in the dark. All the time I couldn't watch TV in the dark, and I needed the lights on to watch TV. I good. I open my window. I don't want to. The rooms was air conditioned. I think the bedrooms was air conditioned, and the living room wasn't. I was not using the air conditioner. I living on top of a hill, and on the fourth floor in our apartment building. It was cold. You really didn't need the air conditioner. I mean, the July August months is really get a lot hot in Jamaica, but outside of that, you really don't need, or I didn't need no air condition, but it's just bad habits in there, so you turn it on, and of course I go to work, I forget that on, and boy, they hit my 15,000. It hot me to pay that bill. Next month, bam, my thing disconnected. So I telling Mr. Blake that's the first time we come across that. I say, Mr. Blake, I did disconnect the thing, but I paid last month and this and that. The man said, but you paid this month? I say, what you mean? I say, it's not every 2 months that is come. Again, young and naive, and you feel everywhere is Trinidad. So I telling myself it had to be that a light bill just come every 2 months everywhere in the world, not knowing that in Jamaica that light bill come in every month. So when I done trying to switch off light and thing already, I didn't realize I done burn up enough current for the month where my bill was heading towards 15,000 already by the time I paid that first bill. So in the first 2 months I was there, my total light bill come up to 20 something hundred. You say $2,500. You would be hard pressed to find a household in Trinidad where a light bill coming up to $2,500. I like my light bill is high, I find, and I run in the air conditions all day. I drying in dryer. I do in dishwasher. Again, 1% in is the ambition, so I doing all the 1% things. I acting like it up front. And I've never seen a light bill for 2 months here come up to 20 something $100. Never. I don't think it will ever get there either. So I think it might not have been the greatest response I've ever seen when they telling people, hey, that's not the average person only describing people who are air conditioned in their house. that always sound good when you say it, but he probably right? We have a tendency, I saying we as this little community we build in here, we have a tendency to think that everybody live in the way we live it. And the reality is that you are not the average citizen who listening to this. You're not average. So doing research and work helps me to understand this all the time. You see this idea that the people, you are not the people. You are already in a very small percentage of the society. And the fact that you have several air conditioned units, a hybrid vehicle, probably European, and several different, like plenty different TV. Everybody in the house have their own TV and their own cable setup and their own Amazon Fire Stick. And everybody have a tablet and a phone and a laptop. Because God forbid you had to open the laptop when you come home. You need that tablet in between the, you know what I mean? Everybody had a little fancy fridge because they couldn't possibly want to open the fridge door to get water and ice now, can we? You had to get that from outside the fridge. So we had to admit to ourselves that the lifestyle we are living, while nothing wrong with it, and everybody aspiring to live better, as I said in the beginning, we're greedy and we're ambitious and so on. Just remember that if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably not an average citizen. Let me not fool yourself into thinking that we are John Public. So when I talk about 1%ers and people getting vexed, the people who responding to me are in the 1% in different areas too. Then the vex that I support in 1%, but the reality is that from the time you have a bachelor's degree, you are in a very small percentage of the society. When you went and you do master's degree or any postgraduate program, you are in an even smaller percentage of the country. I want you to go and Google for yourself. I don't want to call no figures here and put nobody's salary out there. But Google for yourself, what is the average income that people have in Trinidad and what people live off of? and I'm guaranteeing you that your salary is multiples of what that average person getting on a monthly. So we cannot show up in these spaces, people like Marshall Walker and Jack Warner, while they're talking for different groups of people. But I always, when you're watching these things, understand that these are not average people making these arguments. The 64% increase in the light bill is not going to affect everybody the same way. Some of us are not going to affect at all. I shouldn't say that. It will affect you because you're greedy and you want more things. But what you'll be able to do is buy a little bit of less things. You know what I mean? So instead of buying Fear God, you'll buy Fear God essentials. You know what I mean? Instead of buying a European hybrid, you might buy a European combustion engine, you know what I mean? But those are not the same. We're not facing the same decisions as what we call the average person. So while his response might seem insensitive, I mean, he was also right. If you run in 2 or 3 air conditions in your house, you're probably not the average citizen. What I will say is, and this is not his responsibility. I can't remember the person who made this statement, or I don't have the name of the person who responded to it on the panel. But when you hear people in charge say things like that, sometimes it comes across as insensitive, because it's almost like if you're saying somebody gifted me these air conditioned units or gifted me my European car. All of us work hard for the things that we have. It wasn't granted to us in any way. There was plenty sacrifices. And I don't want to live in a society where I make these sacrifices and I do better. I work harder. I went and I get a degree and I study. And I sacrifice and get small money when I first come out, because I couldn't do nothing with my degree without experience. So I get small money and I get experience and things. So now that I command my price and I live the lifestyle I live, I'm upset when people come in to deteriorate my lifestyle by increasing basic facilities from 15 to 64%. And being flippant about it as if the things that I enjoy now are not important or not necessities or not, they are luxuries. You don't need that air conditioner and so on. And I want to tell you that if you agreed with anything I said there, you, my friend, are a 1%er just like me. He's a capitalist. He's a capitalist. If you agree with anything I just said there, he's a capitalist. And I am also. I like the idea of being able to invest in something. I have a business. I take a risk and lots of pressure where business is concerned. At this point, I ain't sure if when I get paid for January, it will be somewhere in February, but the thing will be January. I could tell you that. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because of the lifestyle that I could afford to live and so on. But I like a society where I can be rewarded for the risks that I take and the investments that I make. And none of the investments I make more important than the investment I make and continue to make in my education and bettering myself or learning a skill and executing on a skill. I like that a lot. So I'm always going to be on the side of people who took those same risks and those same chances. And not because they end up getting exponentially wealthy will I start looking at them now and saying, they're wicked. What I will say is that, and where I want to get back to my point about 1%ers last week and clarify something that I said in that I'm not defending anybody who gets to the top of something. And when they own it, they squeeze everybody else out so nobody can get in. I'm not defending that in business or in Soaka or in radio stations or whatever it might be. Because, let me be frank, Marshall Montano have a reputation of squeezing people out of spaces. I don't know if it's true or not, but they let it be known that he can't perform here and he can't do this. And I'm not performing here if he there. It is known. They say, the partner tell me don't call no name, but the Chinese laundry. I don't know how to say. Sorry, I don't know how to say it different. and the Chowlin family has been accused for many years. May know how true of making and breaking stars. Remember Shadow sing about that long time. Go back and listen to Ease the Tension, and you understand how long Soca Mafia is out here. And the reality is that they've been accused of deciding who big and who small and who could get through and who can't get through. And if you're not on their train or they don't benefit from you or you don't pay them or compensate them for their support, you're not going to get it. I am not in support of that. I do not think that is inherently part of the way the 1% behaves. I just want us to always understand that that is what happens. That's why I take the time last week to explain what is a oligopoly and what are monopolies. Because we must understand there's nothing preventing us. I'm talking to black people in particular. I want us to move past the mentality that something is stopping us from becoming the greatest, biggest radio station owner in the world or the greatest artist in the world. Rather than think like that, look at these people as examples. Look at Marshall Montano as an example of what it takes to be the pinnacle. Hugh Masekela was alive. He was available to every single artist in Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, some of them wouldn't be able to call him. I doubt he would have picked up the phone if Trinidad Madman called, right? But past a certain level, the artist could call and make that connection and make that thing happen. But he's the one who did it. And I rather look at that as an example of what I could accomplish and achieve and strive for than to look at the parts of his character that would be bad. If all of us have parts of our character that are bad, and this is the reason why I'm encouraging us to do this in this episode, right? Just consider looking at the wealthiest people slightly differently. Because one thing I got from all the feedback, I could call name, you know, people gangster me all how, you know, I call people name like Marsha Messiah, Cassius Rocheford, Al Murray, who's gangster me. Every time I say the word one, I ain't even get a percent. I'll just get vexed immediately. But all those people who vex and tell me that they also extremely educated, extremely successful in their own right and running their own businesses or high up in the organizations that they're in, and they're executing things in several different areas. And the thing about them is the fact that they could take time out of the day to argue with me about this tells me that if they were running Answer McCall, they would have a different view of how they give back to society. I remember Naldo as well from 868 podcast telling him about this. It's not so much that they're dominating, it's how they treat with the culture. The fact that Naldo could take a minute to tell me that tells me how he would behave or how he's likely to behave if he was the top radio station owner in the country. He would treat the culture better than the people who want up. So what I'm saying to you is observe the people who want up. Understand what they do. Understand how they behave. Understand that they are going to collude. They're going to come together and all of them going to say, these police charging me too much money. We ain't showing fat. All the fat getting smaller. They're also going to come together and say when they interview them in Doma, Christmas time, we ain't any kind of sales you was getting before. The police are the thing, crimes, that. We must understand that and we must behave differently. We must see what they do and work around it, work through it. Because as I was saying with the artists last week, you could do things with Turner a few weeks ago. You could do things that undeniable they're not going to be able to stop. The issue is that most artists is only a small percentage of your songs is mega hits. It don't matter if it's Michael Jackson or Beyonce or whatever. Beyonce has 300 and something songs. It's about 30 or 40 of them songs is mega hits. That's about 10% of all her songs is mega hits. So where they could squeeze here is on the middle of the road stuff. The middle of the road things you could get squeezed because it's a song that people could like or not like. And songs like that tend to be more successful if you play them often enough where people start to get a little vibes from it. You know what I mean? So you get accustomed to it and it just get nice by default because you hear it over and over and over. But if you find ways and invest in yourself and also know that you're in a space where you're in it for the long haul. You can't be in it for every year hustle. And if it work, it didn't work. And you know what I mean? You just take the most safe song every single time. You sing about absolutely nothing. And then you expect that everybody gonna get behind your music and push it. You're going to have to find a way to push yourself that is different from the norm. Because if we get a chance, and I hope that in the life of this podcast, I get a chance to sit down and talk to every one of these people we call 1%ers and big business owners and the Soaka Mafia and the Illuminati. I hope to get to sit down with all of them and talk to them. Because when you hear their story, you will hear about how much fight that they get. And somehow they were able to take all that fight and turn it into something. Whether they find that something is negative or positive, it's not on them, it's on you. Because you got to find yourself in that space where I know you go put the culture first and make sure that we live better if you find the people who there not living now. Remember that 1% thing not permanent. So talking about songs that undeniable. You see this song by Adamo. I don't know what the hell is pronounced. This is Adamo. And so I don't know who is Adamo. Me know where Adamo come out. But I could tell you that every time this song play, it have a different kind of vibes in fete.
Well, look who it is. It's the whining queen of the soca. Everybody want come hold her. Whining queen of the soca. Lord, she want me now. Hey, check her now. Whining up the body, want me now. Hey, check her now. Bouncing up the body, want me now. Hey, check her now. Whining up the body, want me now. Hey, check her now. Bouncing up the bam bam. Head, shoulder, knees, and move over, let her breathe. She ain't nothing easy, so get ready for the teacher. Lights done flick for the camera. Crowd of people front and center. The video man not shaking enough. He ain't seen none yet. She only want me now. Hey, check her now. Winding up the body, want me now. Hey, check her now. Bouncing up the body, want me now. Hey, check her now. Winding up the body, want me now. Hey, check her now. Bouncing up the bam bam. Well, all she need is soca. She don't need no owner. When she start to broke it down, the whole party turn over. One look to the left like ready. Backside nice and heavy. Bounce it, bounce it. She just stick, oh shh. Girl keep on want me now. Hey, check her now. Winding up the body, want me now. Hey, check her now. Bouncing up the body, want me now. Hey, check her now. Winding up the body, want me now. Hey, check her now. Bouncing up the bam bam. Body goes, she a beast, she a boss. If you know, then you know. Body clean, body on. Body goes, she a beast, she a boss. If you know, then you know. Wait, come and let me ask you a question, darling. I like how your backside falling. You come like rain in the morning. All on the ground like drip, drip, drop, drop, drip, drip, drop, drop. Darling, I like how your backside falling. Come like rain in the morning. But they don't seem to realize that you just want me now. Hey, check her now. Winding up that body, want me now.
That song have a different vibes and energy when it come out in a fete, right? I just want to let you know that song come out in 2020. So I'm not sure about this idea that people have where DJs must now play only the songs from this year. I find it stifling. So when a man come out with a song and it's a hit, when since a hit song have a 1 year shelf life? If I hit song, I play songs on this podcast that is from 20 something years ago, and it's songing fresh and brand new. So I be always confused at this kind of thing where people play this year music and everything and only killing the music. I understand when DJs playing pop a bottle over and over and over in the fete. That could be annoying. But it certainly have enough songs every year where we can't turn our genre of music into a disposable thing where you make a song that bad. And no matter what happened, it's over. So here, I want to leave you with this song for this episode. Get to like the 1%, right? We will keep them as part of the conversation and things, support them, buy from them, and learn from them, right? But let me leave you with this one, another undeniable one from this year, right? There's a man who they say joined the mafia. But whether he had joined the mafia or not, they would not be able to stop him because this brother know how to make a hit song.
Tired like that.
And next one, mashing up fest.
Yeah. It bad when we bounce up. Right down is non-stop. It bad when we bounce up. Right down is non-stop. Oh, you don't know how to lime our. You forget how to drink our. Oh, you don't know how to say sour. Just bring the bottle, let me take a shot. Oh, you don't know how to lime our. You forget how to drink our. Oh, you don't know how to say sour. Just bring the bottle, let me take a shot. Where we going? Right down. Where we going? Right down.
fete season and all, they take all the time. Don't end up like me, better you wear a mask when you're going to fete. Enjoy yourself. That's in Mary's this weekend. It's my boy Zola fete this weekend. I know where I'm going up and I know if I could make. And whoever was supposed to call me for fete reviews, all they call me and give me the damn fete review on them now. Because me ain't going nowhere else, and I think I retire from fete. But let's stay safe, stay good. The COVID numbers high, don't forget that. Take care of yourself and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.